On my journey is my wife and I struggle with infertility, and we've been struggling with that for 10 years, and I've been pretty open about it. I'm generally a pretty open person, but I mean, I think we've literally lost count of the number of pregnancies that we've lost and miscarriages that we've had, and rounds of IVF that we've done, which it definitely takes a stroll, and I would say it definitely changed me as an individual. Like the person I was 10 years ago, the person I am today, have been greatly impacted by that personal impact. You're going to face adversity in all different types of ways. So there's not one type of tip that I can give you. I mean, the first thing that I tell you is just breathe. Like just focus on your breath. Just bring it in and like bring everything in. And then, another good tip is like, is this going to matter in 1 minute, 10 minutes, a year or a month or whatever, 10 years? And like, where does it stop? If this doesn't matter in 10 minutes, then why are you worried about it? But if this is something that's going to affect you for 10 years, then yeah, you put more energy and time into it. The whole experience of Beardbrand is like when I grew my beard, I finally felt like I was myself. I finally felt like I was the person I was meant to be. All this other time I was like in the shadow, or I was, doing something because society wanted me to be a certain way. And it was through growing a beard and then subsequently through grooming that beard, right, and investing in that beard, that my life turned around. I wouldn't say that the life was in a bad spot. It was always in a pretty good.
Do you think that's like an identity? Like that was almost like your identity that you was kind of hiding away from, and then you become that person?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Like this is who I am now. Like I've got facial hair, whether it's short or long. Like I view myself as a bearded guy, but with that confidence. Through that grooming, I've been able to achieve great things, and because that was so impactful for me. Like Beardbrand was always about uniting the community. It was never about like how do I sell products or how do I make money or what's the opportunity on Amazon. It was like we want to foster confidence through grooming.
So welcome to another episode of Behind the Reel. I'm joined by
Eric Bandholz,
who's got terrible jokes.
Yeah, no, they're not terrible. They're great.
And this is going to be another episode where I'm going to find out a little bit more about Eric, why he started his channel. You've just hit 1 million.
Yeah, my fists are just destroyed.
And we've just been for tacos and he's been recognised as well. So do you feel like a celeb?
Yeah, I'm on cloud nine.
But let's just start. So how did you get into, did you start on YouTube predominantly?
Yeah, so Beardbrand happened after I grew my beard out for a while, and I was in this business professional environment. And what happened is I got called ZZ Top, Grizzly Adams, Duck Dynasty, who are all cool dudes, but I'm not that dude. Yeah. So I attended this event where I met other guys like me, and that's when I got the inspiration for what to call me, which is Urban Beardsman. And then what I wanted to do was create a community to unite urban beardsmen and give them the tools they needed to feel confident about not just growing their beard out, but being themselves. And that was 2012 that we launched the YouTube channel and a Tumblr page.
And the business itself has just grown and gone from strength to strength. How many employees do you have? Yeah,
so we're up to 15 employees located in Austin, Texas. And, we're working hard to grow as much as possible and push the limits.
And if we can, we spoke a little bit at breakfast about what you did before.
Yeah.
And you said you had many failed businesses. And I could relate to that as well. So talk about some of them. Was that purely just you trying to maybe start a business?
Yeah, it's easy to fail a business when you don't know what you're doing. And those early businesses, I had no clue, but it was just like I would read, 4-Hour Work Week with Tim Ferriss or Rich Dad Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to start a business. And the dopamine for me was, starting a business. It wasn't building a successful business. So I would go to the state and get my official paperwork and open up the bank account and have the company name, the company website. And I was like, all right, I started a business. Like that was the goal.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, starting a business is frankly pretty easy, and it doesn't do anything for you.
Why do you think that was what you was doing? Was it?
I mean, it's
just the chase of starting a business and.
Yeah, I've always been entrepreneurial, and I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I didn't know how to do it. Like I had no like mentors in my life to kind of guide me on what to do. And, I was just kind of learning and trying things and making mistakes and, trying to do it by myself. And subsequently, like nothing got any traction ever. I think like, one business I sold like $200 worth of product, and another business was just exchanging time for money, and I made like $20,000 when I could be working for someone making $60,000 or $100,000. And then another one, I literally worked as an executive recruiter for about a year, and I made nothing. I just like sat on the phone calling people and nothing at all.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm seeing with even speaking to Aaron and other influencers, is they've had a lot of past failures in a way.
Oh, yeah.
And I think again, a lot of people might just see an influencer and say, oh, they've always been successful, or they've always been this person.
Yeah.
And again, it's like stripping it all the way back and seeing the kind of process that you've had to go through to get to where you are.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about like mental health. It's like sometimes do I view myself as that person, right, who didn't really know what they're doing and constantly wasn't successful and wasn't able to launch things. And clearly I've had success with Beardbrand, but if I were to start something else, would I have that same success or not? Or would it be, another project that just kind of flutters away?
Yeah. So how long did it take you to kind of see success?
Well, I mean, I was born in 81, and then Beardbrand was successful in what I would say 2014. So what is that, 33 years?
Yeah.
It took me.
You're not that old.
Yeah, I was born in 81.
Oh, it's the beard.
Yeah. Hey, it's the grooming products over at beardbrand.com.
And in kind of, we do have this judgment of influencers that, some of them are selling out, or that their lives are perfect. Would you say your life is perfect right now?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, like, we have challenges. So one of the things that we talked about on my journey is my wife and I struggle with infertility, and we've been struggling with that for 10 years. And I've been pretty open about it. I'm generally a pretty open person, but I mean, I think we've literally lost count of the number of pregnancies that we've lost and miscarriages that we've had, and rounds of IVF that we've done, which it definitely takes a stroll. And I would say it definitely changed me as an individual. Like the person I was 10 years ago, the person I am today, have been greatly impacted by that personal impact. And but I mean, for me, it's like a lot of that's out of my control. But my wife, she handles it differently, and I'm with my wife until I die. So it's like, her pain and her suffering through this journey is also my pain and suffering. So I just have to kind of be there as well in my own way.
Yeah, and when you was going through that period of not being able to have a baby, was there ever a time that maybe you were scrolling through social media or seeing someone with a baby and using that to almost beat yourself up in a way?
Oh, well, I mean, for me, I kind of like I'm inspired by a lot of lessons from like Buddhism and control, and it's like no kids, 1 kid, 3 kids, 100 kids, adopted kids, dogs, whatever it is. Like I can find joy and love in that. Like, so for me, it's not that big a deal. And when my friends get pregnant, even now, I'm really excited for them. I'm really excited that they embark on that journey. But for my wife, it was not the case. Like she would scroll through the feeds and, like, of course you have to put on this front that you're excited when deep down inside, like you want it, and it hurts. So, to a certain degree, like I almost had to mask my excitement for my friends who were getting pregnant because I knew it would hurt my wife's feelings, and not so much hurt her feelings, but it's not the things that she wanted to be exposed to at that time.
Yeah, and I think we're all quite guilty of that. A lot of us, where if we're having a problem in our relationship, we're scrolling through and we're seeing, relationship goals and these happy couples, and in reality, that isn't the reality. That isn't essentially telling the full picture. And do you think that's something that we need to personally deal with, or do you think it's something that social media needs to deal with? I
mean, it's I think as the viewers on the other side of this camera, you've got to understand that the content you consume is ultimately your responsibility, and you're in control of that. And what you want to take out of that content is out for you. So if you want to believe that everything you see on on social media is real and 100% of what happens, then, maybe that's your fantasy time, right? Then maybe that's a way for you to escape. And, like how I like to watch Game of Thrones, like I know, it's not real, but it kind of like, it helps me on my own little path. But if you have the expectation that it is real, and then you're not leading this life and it's drawing you down, then I think it's important for you to invest in yourself and your content. But I don't really know where I'm going with that. But other than like,
no.
I don't think there should be this intense pressure to show the real. Like people who create need to create for whatever reason.
It's almost like the news is always very negative, isn't
Yeah.
it? And it's up to us whether we watch the news or we don't watch the news, or if we watch the news, how we take the news. Like,
Yeah.
do we let that affect us or not? So, yeah, I agree. I think it's mostly down to the individual and what we're consuming on social media. With your content, are you quite authentic with your content? Do you feel like you're being yourself, or do you feel like sometimes you might put on a front to...
I would like to think that the person is pretty true. I think there are times when like I feel this pressure to create content, and in that pressure, I'm actually more like reserved or serious than I am in person. Like you see me around at networking events, and I feel like how I am this weekend and how I am around you guys and telling jokes and kind of shooting the shit.
I never know whether he's being serious or whether he's like about to tell a joke.
Yeah, nobody does, right?
If there's a penguin involved or an elephant, then I know he's joking.
Yeah, if there's an animal coming up or a dinosaur.
But you like that in your content, and you come across as, Yeah,
I think like every once in a while I'll kind of like drop a couple jokes here and there, and I don't think like, part of my ability to bring humor into the world is like to tell really bad jokes. And where people don't know is he serious or not. And that, to me, that's the humor of life. When I'll go to a waitress and I'll say something like completely asinine, like, like let's say the coffee was like 717. I'm like, oh, that was the year I was born. And it's just like completely like random thing. And then she's like,
and you've got a certain tone of voice as you say it as well.
Yeah, very deadpan, like just like direct, and or I'll be like, that's my lucky number, and it's like some weird number. And
do you find that helps you, like being humorous and having a bit of fun and not being so serious?
Yeah, I mean it's I've always kind of been like the goofy kid, I think, and I don't know, I think life's too short to be serious, and I can feel like there's certain things like business does take an emotional toll on me. Like I think it does almost bring like an over seriousness of myself, and not everyone sees it. So like one of my quarterly goals is like every day I want to go to work happy, and I want the team to kind of see like this is who I am, like I'm a happy person, and I like to tell jokes and shoot the shit and have fun, and it's okay to have fun, like life doesn't have to be entirely seriously.
Yeah. And how about, so how old's your little
She's
one?
5.
5. So what's her name?
Eleanor.
And so you're a dad, you're a husband, you run a business, you create content. There's so many different, versions of you.
Yeah.
How do you find balance now?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been a tough challenge. Like, and I think this was a talk I had a lot over this weekend, is like, my wife wants my time, my child wants my time, my business wants my time, and I want my time for my own health. And like, how do I find that balance? And I was raised in a Catholic family, so I have like that Catholic guilt of, am I giving everyone the appropriate amount of time? And, and my business partners, am I giving my business partners like the energy into the business that I feel like is what the business deserves? So it's one of the things that I would honestly say, I don't know if I've solved yet, like I don't know if I've found that balance. And
do you think balance exists though? This is what I was thinking to myself the other day, because I have a similar issue in a way of, am I being a good husband, am I being a good dad, am I doing enough work on the business?
Yeah.
And I almost thought, does balance actually exist?
I think it does, but there's sacrifice.
Yeah.
There's sacrifice and balance, so like for me, been married 12 years, and I would feel like that our marriage is pretty strong at this point. With everything that we've gone through, and committed to her, and it's been faithful 12 years as well, which I think is pretty challenging as well. And my daughter definitely has a closer relationship with with my wife, her mom, because I feel like my wife has put so much more into that role of a mother versus my role as a father. So I feel like to a certain degree, I feel like, I didn't do the best job as a father because my daughter always prefers to go to my wife, or, is that just who she is, as a daughter, and she just likes her mom. And
Is that quite hard, like with?
yeah, it's hard for me because I'm like do you know the five love languages?
Yeah.
So quality time's high on me, which is great. I love that. My wife and I are on that, and then like touch is like one of my high ones as well. And like my daughter's not really a touchy-feely girl, and my wife, she's an acts of service is her thing. So like that's the one love language where, granted, like quality time's number one. So if I'm getting that, that's great. But like the whole like not having my daughter come and hug me when I come home from work, like I see that all the time, and I don't really get that, which kind of sucks. But I if I try to force a hug onto her as well, that's not a good situation either.
Yeah, and I think it is difficult, isn't it? Because as well, someone said, be a good dad by what you do, not by what you say. And I think, as maybe she gets older, and I'm hoping as my boys get older that maybe they see that you're doing something that is very purposeful and you're driven, and that's a way of being a parent as well as being there and sort of nurturing.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm not a bad dad, right? I don't hit them. I believe in a philosophy called peaceful parenting. So any of the parents out there who want to explore how they may be able to interact with their children better, peaceful parenting is essentially a way to communicate through empathy and understanding rather than through rewards and punishment. And it doesn't mean that there aren't consequences. There's natural consequences to everything. Like if my daughter's terrible to me, she doesn't get access to me. It's just as simple as that. If you're going to talk to me rude and with disrespect, I'm sorry, I'm just going to block you off. And then when you're able to communicate nicely, like there's no time frame. It's not like you're punished for 12 minutes because you talk rudely to me. You just don't have access to me until you can talk nicely. So if you fix it immediately, then you...
So it creates a respect almost.
Yeah. And then ideally it helps them learn that there's consequences for actions. And like it doesn't create this like in a perfect world, it doesn't create this conflict between like a parent-child kind of relationship where it's like do it as I tell just because I'm the parent, which I want my daughter to learn how to think for herself and understand things for herself. But at the same time, I'm not perfect. Like every once in a while, it's like do you want ice cream, go flush the toilet or
That's
whatever. It's a
really good point actually. I've never thought of it that way, and I was just thinking about my mum and. She was never strict. She was always, me and my brother was her whole world, and there was one time where I got caught smoking. Yeah. And I was really, really young, and as soon as she found out, she just cried. And with my mum, she wasn't strict, but I just had this huge respect for her. I didn't smoke after that, and she didn't have to be strict, and there was just pure respect for her because she naturally took that approach of being more compassionate and listening.
So that's great. You grew up in that environment. I grew up in an environment with great parents as well. I don't think they had like a framework or a philosophy that they're doing. They're just doing what their parents did. And, there's a lot of love in our household and a lot of support. And so I think that kind of really gave me a leg up. And I think about when I provide for my child, I want to make sure their needs are kept, and then that there's just more than ample enough love. And those are like really the only two things I worry about. Everything else is just kind of like, like distractions from the reality of what's important. And then, with that love and with like having her needs met, then she can do what she wants to do in life, and it's kind of on her. I'm not going to push her to be, a doctor or amazing person. Like she's got to find her own pathway in. And hopefully I just foster an environment where she has, enough of that foundational confidence of love, really, that she'll be able to do it.
And I think as a parent, for me, it's scary around, the suicide statistics around young people. And is that kind of the approach that you're taking, that you can just do as much as you possibly can? And, but she's also got to find her own feet as well.
I mean, I don't want her to live my life or the life that I want her to live. I want her to live her own life. She wants to be a trapeze artist, or she wants to be a street performer, or she wants to be, stay-at-home mom, or she wants to be an engineer or, politician or whatever it is. Like, I want her to live her own life and build her own legacy and like I want to be a good support system for her if she needs it, but.
And tell terrible jokes.
Yeah.
And in terms of like influencers now, you kind of, you're an entrepreneur. What are you seeing? Maybe what do you think influencers need to do more of to better their business, but also maybe better their impact with their audience?
Yeah, it's really challenging because like I do view that like influencers essentially is a business, and you have to make decisions that drive the business. We had a good conversation with Aaron Marino where he talked about like how to develop the right thumbnail and title so that his videos would be viewed and so that his channel would grow and that his, the partners that he worked with will be happy with the results. And he needs to do that to put food on the table, So it's like you have to find this balance of being able to put food on the table and support the YouTube channel or support the content that you create. And then also like being true to yourself and producing content that you believe in. And, a big thing for us is our taglines keep on growing. And that's built around our core values of freedom, hunger, and trust. And with every order that people order from Beardbrand, we have this little field note sized booklet. And in there it says like hunger, freedom, and trust. And like, what does hunger mean to you? And what does freedom mean to you? And kind of ask them questions to kind of help them think the right way. Or think in a way of self-improvement. And then the journal is a way for them to write their notes and they can put grocery notes on there if they want, or they can be like, here's my thought of the day. Or
so it's not almost like you're just selling a product about, people might hear it and say, oh, they're selling products for beard. It's almost like you're trying to help them better themselves.
Yeah, so it goes back to that story that we started this conversation with is like the whole experience of Beardbrand is like when I grew my beard, I finally felt like I was myself. I finally felt like I was the person I was meant to be. All this other time I was like in the shadow, or I was, doing something because society wanted me to be a certain way. And it was through growing a beard and then subsequently through grooming that beard, right, and investing in that beard that my life turned around. I wouldn't say that the life was in a bad spot. It was always in a pretty good spot.
Do you think that's like an identity? Like it was almost like your identity that you was kind of hiding away from, and then you become that person?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Like this is who I am now. Like I've got facial hair, whether it's short or long. Like I view myself as a bearded guy, but with that confidence through that grooming, I've been able to achieve great things, and I because that was so impactful for me. Like Beardbrand was always about uniting the community. It was never about like how do I sell products or how do I make money or what's the opportunity on Amazon. It was like we want to foster confidence through grooming. And some of that means education. That's why we have 1,000 videos on YouTube to help educate people and help give them guidance on how to groom things. You don't even have to buy products from us to experience Beardbrand, to keep on growing. You can watch the content, you can read our blogs. And then if you want the products and you felt like they brought value to your life or Beardbrand brought value to your life, that means so much to me that they would choose to spend their resources that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm on this mission. I strongly believe that if we can get men to invest in themselves through grooming, that they're going to love themselves more. They're going to become better partners. They're going to become better fathers. They're going to become better employees and leaders in their businesses, and they're going to become better community leaders. And then when you have this collectively, it's like this grassroots things where all the guys are getting better and better and better and better, and then society as a whole gets better. Because the reality is, like, you talk about mental health. It's like, I can't go to someone and be like, I want to fix your mental health.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to do it.
Yeah.
And I get emails every single day from guys who are like, thank you so much for your content, because, like, this was like my wake-up call. Or I went through a divorce, and then I grew my beard, and or I started investing in myself, and I turned my life.
It's almost like the stepping stone, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like similar to exercise, for example. Sometimes you get into exercise, and it's the first step to then bettering yourself.
Yeah, and so like, it's exactly right. Like, there's companies that do it through exercise, and some that do it through apparel, and some that do it through, I don't know, other products like shoes or whatever, like, Nike and Just Do It and athletics. And but we do it through grooming. And, not everyone's going to go on the same pathway. Some it is through grooming. Some it is through bodybuilding. Some it is through, better sleep habits or whatever it may be.
And how did, So the exchange that we just had in the restaurant, obviously you're not from around here, and someone stopped you and said, hey, hey Eric from Beardbrand, and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel? And did you ever expect that when you first started creating content?
Oh, I love it. You know, like I certainly have an ego, like everyone. I just am more proud to admit that I have one. So for me, it does feel good when people recognize me in public. And I always wish that if someone recognizes me, feel free to come up and say hello. And it was even more special because every time I hang out with Aaron Marino, it's always someone coming up to say hello to Aaron. And I'm just like, oh, hey,
just walk straight past Aaron and go straight up to you.
Yeah, I got a YouTube channel. So, like, you know, I was around, like, these great, like, notable, incredible people. And that I was, granted, I'm wearing a Beardbrand hat, so it kind of helps a little.
But also, you say about your ego and that it feels great. But then when we were having breakfast the other morning, you said that you'd be happy to step away from the channel.
Yeah.
You'd be happy to walk away from that limelight a little bit and get someone else in there.
Yeah, you know, it's like my passion in life, as I talked about in my talk, is, you know, freedom, hunger, and trust are the things that really drive me. And, you know, that's more than self-recognition, and that's more than, like, being famous, and that's more than, you know, like, buying cars and materialism and stuff like that. So something that allows me to be free, that allows me to explore the world and spend time with the people that I love and to work on the projects that I love. I always put that a higher priority of fame and fortune. But it's not to say I don't want fame and fortune.
Now, I know you've
it's definitely on the list, but it's just lower priority.
Yeah, of course. Now, I know you've got to get a flight. So I'm going to end it with 2 questions. The first question is, if someone wants to be a YouTuber or an influencer, and, you know, they say it's the job that everyone wants growing up now, what advice would you give to them? Yeah, I mean, it's you just got to do it. You know, like I think that's the biggest roadblock for so many people is, like, you talk a talk, you know, but you're not walking the walk, and, like, you don't know. So just start. Yeah, just start. You know, like, you guys should watch my early content. It was terrible. And the great thing about creating content early on is, like, no one's watching your stuff. Let's be real. So you can make those mistakes. And, like, the 1 or 2 people who watch it, they're more likely to give you input and feedback, and you take that feedback and you make it better and make it better and make it better. Yeah. And then by the time you've got 10,000 subscribers or 5,000 subscribers or 100,000 subscribers, you've learned a lot of those things and you're making better content. And then that kind of, like, elevates you and elevates you and elevates you. And that's a great tip as well. I think if you want to become an influencer, is don't go and look at your videos now. Like, go back to your oldest videos and compare yourself to you back then. Well, and compare yourself to yourself. Yeah. Don't compare yourself to, like, Peter McKinnon and Casey Neistat and Marquis Brownlee. Because then you won't start, will you? Because it's just... and how many videos have they created, you know? And how much have they learned over the years? Yeah. And then the final question is, with mental health, you've touched on it a little bit here, and as well, you know, if someone is maybe struggling with mental health, what advice would you give to them? Aside from maybe growing a beard, because there might be women watching this as well. Well, you know, I've actually written a book that I'd give them. I can send you the PDF, and you can send it out if you want. But it's great. It's the same size as the field notes, and the purpose of it is the book's called the Book of Reminders. So it's 9 reminders that I've written that kind of helped me on my journey and it's kind of taken through, like, your birth through your death, and, like, you know, the various topics of, like, don't be a martyr, but also don't be a victim. You know, just focus on love and focus on your breath, kind of like meditation, things like that. So, you know, I would encourage them to read the book and kind of bring themselves back. Daily reminders, so you'd recommend to do something every day, just to kind of gradually... Yeah, you know, it's just like, you're going to face adversity in all different types of ways. So there's not one type of tip that I can give you. I mean, the first thing that I tell you is just breathe. Like, just focus on your breath. Just... bring it in and, like, bring everything in. And then, you know, another good tip is, like, you know, is this going to matter in 1 minute, 10 minutes, a year or a month or whatever, 10 years? And, like, where does it stop? If this doesn't matter in 10 minutes, then why are you worried about it? You know? But if this is something that's going to affect you for 10 years, then you put more energy and time into it. Amazing. Thanks for having me. No worries. I'll link up to everything that you've done, and I'm sure they'll find you anyway. But let's end it with a joke. Okay. A terrible joke. A terrible joke that's not offensive. Okay, I'll do I'll do the one that I already told you, because I know. Not the really long one. No, not the really long one. So you already know the punchline, which spoils all the fun. Because all my other ones are inappropriate. But what did the male fruit fly say
to the female fruit fly when they were hungry?
I don't know.
Let's go on a date. So, yeah.
You know,
Get it like so you get it like a date, like two people go out and they eat food.
Yeah.
But also a date like a thing that grows on a tree.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll leave it up to those to decide whether or not it's funny. I think your way of telling it always makes it funny. But no, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.